to the Roundtable and Brent Presents. I've got some good friends here, Blake and Lauren Fowler, and then, of course, my trusty sidekick, Laura. And basically, this conversation started a couple of weeks ago where I realized that the two of you started working together, and I said, "Oh, y'all got to come in so we can talk about, the challenges and the fun things that Laura and I had working together, and then, of course, just kind of see how it's been with you." So first of all, thanks for being here. Really appreciate it.
Thanks for having us.
Yeah, thanks for having us.
Good. So let's talk about that. All right. How long's it been? A couple weeks?
21 days.
Yeah.
Yes.
Who's counting?
So today is the end of my third week.
Okay.
So it's been a whirlwind.
So why don't you talk about where you came from and,
so
and how you got into this mess?
I previously, in my former life, I was in philanthropy and fundraising.
Uh-huh.
So I was a fundraiser. I did major gift fundraising at two large institutions, and then was on the other side. I gave away money at a foundation. I did a lot of statewide travel, corporate foundation.
Right.
It was really cool, but totally different than real estate.
Yeah.
Very different than small business.
Mm-hmm.
So it has been an adjustment, but it's been good. It's been very peaceful a little bit, as opposed to the corporate world sometimes. So yeah.
Well, the real estate brokerage business in and of itself it's different.
Mm-hmm.
I get calls all the time about agents wanting to be brokers, and it's an interesting conversation just because I was like, you do realize that those are two totally different things, right?
Yeah.
And sometimes it works out, sometimes it doesn't. So, Blake, why don't you kind of give everybody else sort of an introduction of who you are, where you came from, and how you got her to come on board.
Yeah, that was definitely a 2-year process. But so I went through Bob Brooks School of Real Estate in 2003. I got my license, graduated from LSU in 2007, became full-time real estate agent. And then from there in 2012, we bought the franchise for exit. And since then, we've kind of been pushing the ball up the hill. At no point has there been a downslope. And so when I realized that there are things that I'm really good at, and I'm kind of duct taping the other things that I'm not so good at. As Lauren and I, we started dating, and then we got married, and then over the 2-year conversation of realizing what my strengths are, what her strengths are, I realized, holy mess, this is a complementary skill that we can kind of go together and complement each other and what we're good at. So she's really good at the operation side, the communication, and the messaging side, and I'm more sales, training, coaching, that type of stuff. Is what I end up doing on my work in my day.
Well, we'll come back in 1 year and see if that actually
That's
works
the
out.
same.
Absolutely, yeah. It'll be good.
That's what you think you're doing.
That's right.
Yeah.
So that's really kind of where we were.
Yeah.
Is I was here for probably 12, 13 years, which is kind of similar to your track. And then I was like, okay. Laura was always in the building. She was upstairs. I was downstairs. And then 2 years ago or so, she came downstairs. What year did you say it was?
The beginning of 2017.
Okay, so a little over 2 years. She came down, and my whole thing was, I just want you to take 10%, because if you can free up 10% of my time, that would be awesome. So we had this great plan where she was going to come in. She was going to be kind of almost like a part-time.
Right.
And
I was going to go to the gym every morning.
how'd that work out 2 years later?
I don't go to the gym every day. I did it for a little while, and it was amazing. I would drop my kids off in my workout gear. I was like one of those moms, and I was so excited about it.
Yeah.
I was like, I'm going to drop them off. I'm going to sneak to the gym. I'm going to lunch with the ladies. And it didn't stick very long.
Yeah.
But I tried, and I really
I don't know. Well, part of that, I think,
minute.
is kind of the investment. And one of the things, and I know I've told you this, is it's good to have somebody in the office that cares as much as you do.
Right.
And because it's your own business, it's your blood, sweat, and tears, and certainly having support staff, I couldn't do it without them. But to have somebody that's sort of there with you that cares as much as you do really was the biggest change for me. And I know she wants to be at the gym, but she got in there and was like, basically went, this is not really the way that this should be. And subsequently...
What's that like, guys? Here we go.
Yeah, no, that is absolutely happened to us.
changed a few things in the beginning.
So what do you, what kind of challenges have you had in the few weeks here?
Not really so much challenges. I think it's almost been like an investigative, like an audit process. So there are things that I've known for 2 years that we've worked on.
Right.
But when you're there every day, you get to interact with the agents. And so instead of hearing about the agents of like, what's going on in their world through Blake or, how they're doing, I actually am having time to sit down with them and say, what are you interested in doing? Like what systems or processes can I help you with? What are some tools or resources that we can provide? And so getting to know them on that level has been really eye-opening. And it's really cool. There have been things that I've learned that I had no idea.
Right.
And so now I'm in the process of figuring out, okay, where do we go from here? Now that we sort of know what everyone needs,
Right.
how do we start streamlining and helping? And so it's been good. I haven't really run into many challenges. I will say it is interesting working with your spouse. And Blake, you can share as well. We hear a couple of things from everyone whenever we say we started working together. So if you want to kind of tell them some of the things that you've heard, because I know that we get different things, but and sort of like how we've combated, that I think would be interesting.
Yeah, so we went into the whole process understanding flexibility was key. What you said is you jokingly asked in a year, let's see how that works for you. So the plan wasn't we're going to design the next 12 years of our life. Yeah. We were literally designing the next 30 days, and we'll let the dust settle and see kind of where we're going to play from. Yeah. One of the key things that we did on her last day of work, June 1st was her first day officially with our company, and we went to Abita Springs. We stayed in the hotel over there, and we spent a weekend hanging out personally and then strategic planning. It's the first time that we've sat down and talked about what do we want business to look like, what roles will we play. So we defined clear job descriptions and roles. And I don't know how you handled it, but it was my baby.
Right.
And so the complexities have not come in the last 21 days. They came over that 2-year conversation.
Yeah.
And so it was, I need you to help this. It's exactly what you said. I need this, if you can just save me this time. And so what I would find myself doing is going, hey, would you take this off my plate? And then she'd either uncover that it's not the best way to do it, what you said, or she would find a better way to kind of put the pieces of the puzzle together. Mm-hmm. And then I would get frustrated or upset that it didn't get done the way I wanted it done. Right. And she goes, well, those are two different things. You either want it done right, because I'm not just going to do this way. She's highly integrity, high level of work ethic, very motivated individual, and it's not the best way to get buy-in, is how I would describe it. So it has been more of a 2-year process of me learning to let go of how it's done and being okay with the agreed upon result that we have both said, this is what we want to achieve. What do you think it looks like? How do you think we should get there? And then me going, yes, as long as we derive at the end result, that's perfect.
I'll let go.
That's
a little
bit. A little bit at a time. A little bit at a time. It's taken us a long time.
You've been good. Last 21 days, you've been good.
Yeah.
He has come in. There have been a few moments where he'll pop in and say, "Hey, can you look at this?" And I'm like, "Is it on the calendar?" Because just to give him a hard time because he's so structured, and I am the IT department as well as the marketing department, so I'm like, 3 hours into something related to IT, which are systems, and that requires a lot of attention, and so I have to be focused in that moment.
Break that concentration, takes you 20 minutes to get it back.
And so he'll pop in, and I'm like, no, let's put it on the schedule, and we'll meet about it in a little bit. So that's been funny, but yeah, it's been good. It's been a good 3 weeks.
Yeah, the other challenge that we really had to figure out was in the same thread of earlier saying, help me with this. I would say, help me with this, and she'd go, well, first, before we do that, we need to go through the correct messaging and communication. So have y'all taken the Strength Finders test or seen anything about it? No. So it's 32 strengths that it ranks you through. Her number one is communication, which doesn't mean like conversation. It means specific words mean a lot. Yeah. The messaging is incredibly important. My number one is responsibility. That's shocker. I do what I say I'm going to do when I say I'm going to do it, and I get frustrated when other people don't. So that's
my responsibility is like 28 out of 32, and his communication's like 15. Yeah, so I mean, we balance each other out.
So I'm ready, fire, ready, aim. She goes, no. We need to talk about the messaging part of this first.
What are we really going to say?
And so I am like,
I want it to be done already.
Yeah, I'm done. I'm way past this already.
He's on step 30, and I'm like, we got to do step 2 first, so to get there.
But. Yeah. So, but taking that, they took it at her previous tedious job
Right.
as this collective. And so I took it on my own just to kind of see. She was, just kind of go through it. And it wasn't till I understood how she's wired. That's where a lot of the breakdown of or a lot of the release of frustration from my perspective was going, okay, I want the end result, but if we don't go through this process, we're not going to be able to synergize. We're both going to be butting heads going, I need to do this and I need to do this. And so now there's a process to getting through that form of, or that action or tactic or reaching that goal.
Did y'all, I feel like y'all nodding and kind of like laughing that y'all may have gone through some of the same same strengths or maybe like personality types. Like what was that like?
I'm the idea guy, so I'll have the idea and I'll drop it on her desk and I'm like, all right. And then I'm on to the next thing, and she's like, "What just happened?"
Can we come back to here?
I need more clarity.
I'm already done. We're already done. We're
Yeah.
moving forward. Just make it happen, and we're
Right.
and it's there's a lot of untangling that goes on.
Oh,
And
yeah.
I'm the same way. I'm frustrated because what's taking this so long? She's like, well, you didn't tell me exactly what needed to do.
Give me 3 of the 100 steps.
That's right.
Yeah.
Half
and
and half of
too,
one.
As a spouse, you're able to say things, right, that maybe a team member wouldn't say or shouldn't or can't or whatever. Plenty of times we're in a meeting and he thinks he's being clear and he's talking to everyone and I'm like,
She's like, that's not what you're saying.
No.
I didn't hear
you
I
are
know
not,
what you meant.
Yes, I
But
know
no
what
one
you
else
mean, and I
did.
think I know what you're trying to say, but you're not being clear enough for these people to walk out of this room and take actions to do the things that you want them to do.
Right.
They might go do something else that's sort of on
Related.
this related, but it's not. The end result is not going to come out what you think you're saying.
Yeah.
And as the partner, you can say, let's try it. Okay, let's try that again.
Right.
And I think that too has been he communicates all day long, every day, but sometimes the words aren't. And to be honest, I do this too. Sometimes I'll be talking. I think you know what I'm talking about, and I'm like, okay, so you just go here and here and here, and you do this, and then and they're like, and it's not clear. Right. So you just have to make sure that you're communicating enough to.
In an effective way.
In an effective way, right?
Effective.
I love that y'all sat down and did, because that's something that we started a couple of years ago, was to sit down and go, okay, let's kind of have a business meeting. And then this year what we've tried to do is monthly go, okay, let's just take a time and talk about, because it's easy, working with your spouse is you have these conversations at 9:00 at night.
Yeah.
And then you're like, okay, let's just talk 10 minutes about this, and then we'll talk about the kids and the dog and the this and the that and the errands. And then you get back to work and you're like, okay, where were we? What did we do?
Yeah.
So making
It's
kind
so
of a conscious effort to go, and we try to do lunch once a month where we just bring it in, we talk about business related stuff, and then that way it's like, all right, here's the goals for the month. This is what we did. This is what we did right. This is what we did wrong. This is how we're going to adjust and kind of move forward. So it took us a while to get there. So it's good.
It does, because sometimes I want to leave this place. I mean, you own your own business. You're not really ever away. I mean, you're always thinking about it and wanting it to succeed and figuring out ways to make it succeed.
Investing in it. And
and all of those things. But I don't want to sit here all day long and then go home and talk about it all night long. You got to
It
step
becomes
away.
24 hours,
Right. So you got to be able to kind of focus on other things as well.
I'm curious, not to ask the questions,
Go
but
for
I
it.
am.
No,
But
go.
from an
This
advice
is-
perspective, so when you came into the business 2 years ago, what was it like getting buy-in? Coming in as you see her not only as your wife, but someone who has a lot of strengths and capabilities that complement what you needed. And so, how did you come in and say, like, okay, she's not just coming in because she's my wife, like she has a skill set, and start integrating her into the team?
Which I thought that there was a minute, because it took a long time, because the girls, the people that we had on our team at the time, they knew more than me about running this. I knew a lot about this business, but I knew it from my husband works there, right? So I know kind of what he's dealing with every day, and his challenges and things that he wants to accomplish. but I'm not in the day-to-day.
Right.
I can't, at that point, I couldn't answer the phone and answer every student's question that they might have. I didn't even know how to log into the course management system. You know,
Yeah.
so like I mean, I had to learn a new job from what I had been doing for 14, 17 years up until then.
Wow.
Right.
It was.
World.
It was.
So that took
It
a
took
minute.
time.
Yeah.
I mean that was it. Time. I always, and because I had the same transition when I came in. I mean, and the way that I always looked at it a little bit was, and I'm by no means suggesting doing it this way, but this is just the way it worked out for
I'm
me, is
asking, yeah.
When I came into the business, Bob had his people. And it took some time for them to either become my people or I had to bring my own people in.
Right.
And then when she came on board, loyalty's a strong word, but that's the best word I can think of. But they were loyal to me, not to her or to us.
Right.
And it took some time to kind of shift that. And now, you know, if she's going to run the day-to-day operations, which is kind of what she ends up doing, she ended up getting her people, you know, and some of them we still have from that were before, and some of them it didn't work out, and it sort of organically worked that way. But I mean, it's we have a wonderful team, but they're her people, right? They're her, they're sort of her people that she's able to kind of come in with, and then to some degree, we had an unfortunate server incident which caused everybody to learn everything new.
Oh, yeah.
Very quickly.
So and then
That
she
was the
just kinda
baptism
jumped
by
in.
fire. That was the point where I was part-time and I was learning, and it was like,
I don't
Laura,
suggest that method at all.
Laura, come sit down. I'm going to sit down with you on Tuesday while you do the reports, and I'm going to learn that process. And I'd be like, okay, I'll do that next month. And I'll just sit back here and do my QuickBooks, and, you know, I'll be sweet. And then the things happened, and it was all hands on deck, and it was everybody be like, let's go.
You go,
and I
we
was
woke up
forced
one
to
day
learn
and
everything.
our server was gone.
Oh my
And
gosh.
it was
Terrifying.
Yeah, it was bad.
It was pretty much worst case, the worst thing you could
Yeah.
possibly imagine happened. So it was I had
Wow.
to rebuild our courses for
gosh.
3 days, and then
But we were up.
You did it in 3 days. Can you come to our office next?
I didn't sleep. And I'm not kidding.
No,
I
I
did not
know.
sleep. Like it was no sleep. We did it, and then we kind of it was
We
unfortunate.
had
That is
everybody back in
insane.
their course within 3 days.
Wow.
And so it was interesting, but from that standpoint, it's just a matter of showing, it's the value aspect. You're valuable. You can see her value, and sometimes it's hard and it's no different than an agent. I mean, the agents want to be able to, okay, how am I different? How can I show value?
Yeah.
And it's just a piece by piece. And,
we were, so I was fortunate enough to get some advice from my business coach that says when you're announcing news, there's a certain process to go through it. And so it took us a 30-day process of going through that 30 days of figuring out, because what we found out was when you announce what you perceive to be good news, you create anxiety for everyone else about how this is supposed to look.
Yeah.
And so what I ended up finding out through this was I was telling people individually, I didn't do it collectively, just to kind of get a feel and see what it was. And I would ask them, what do you think this means? Or they would ask, what questions or concerns do you have in this process? I'm not kidding you. I asked 5 people. I got 5 different things that they thought that she was coming in to do.
Right.
None of them were right or good.
No. And I was like, I'm not doing any of those things. That's
She's,
terrible.
she's not replacing our old admin. She's not my assistant. She's not getting her license. Like there were certain things that
I'm not the gatekeeper.
that we were going in going, this is fantastic.
Right.
You guys
I
have
have a
no
partner
idea.
now.
Yeah,
This is great.
this is going to help y'all so much more than what my limited capacity and my skill in that. And they weren't seeing any of that. So
Right.
it took us 30 days to kind of roll it out and then have a meeting, let everybody voice what they thought, and then be able to basically create FAQs around
Sure.
this is what this means. Her working here means this. And no one was opposed to it.
Right.
They just didn't know.
They didn't know how to call it.
They had no idea.
It's hard.
They're
Yeah.
like, so let me get this straight. Like, they're like skeptical. They're like, your whole job is to help me. I'm like, yep. And they're like, that's it. Like, and they're like, this is amazing. Like, a few of them, they've started to catch on because they know they can come to me now and say, hey, I saw this system or I saw this platform I'm really interested in. Could you help me with it? And so I'm like, sure. And they're like, really? And I'm like, Yes, that's
what
why
I
I'm
do.
here. Yeah.
So what is
And
your
so-
official? Do you have an official
I
title?
mean, I guess official is like kind of COO maybe because I mean I do oversee the marketing and communications, but I'm more so right now really like from a system level streamlining processes, with putting together trainings, like doing those
Right.
types of things and getting our agents, you know.
But this resonates with y'all too.
Right.
You're a training company. Like this is what y'all do too. Technology and resources and information are only as good as the implementation of it.
No doubt.
Yeah.
And I think
Making
that's
it
part
access,
of
yeah.
what I am not excited by providing 4 new trainings a week
Right.
for our team if there's no follow up
Right.
to what the heck we talked about. And that's not her role necessarily
Right.
to make sure that they're trained on that, but it's to make sure we have the mechanisms that create the implementation
Sure, you want to
for
use
the
it.
of the person to
Yeah.
say, now that you have the information, what are we going to do with it? What does it look like in
Yeah.
your life?
Well,
What does
just
it
because
look
you have it doesn't mean you'll use
Yeah.
it. If you can't access
Yeah.
it
Right.
easily and you don't know where it lives, you know,
Right.
and
you're not.
and it doesn't all talk to each other.
And those things take.
They take people like
consistency.
him to build it out.
Well,
Yeah.
consistency
Yeah.
and habits,
Mhm.
right?
Yeah.
So if you're not
Yeah.
used to putting in certain processes into your day,
Mm-hmm.
then you don't know how good it is
Yeah.
until you do. And then, my line that I use in all aspects of life, business, work, work and home and life and all the thing is change is hard even when you choose it.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
that's kind of my thing.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
like even when you make changes that you have
Yeah.
obviously decided to do, you had to decide to quit working and what you were doing,
Yeah.
you had to make these things, it still provides anxiety and stress and just trepidation as far as like how's this all going to work out. We don't know, so
Yeah.
change is hard. It kind of moving to a new house, even when you choose to move to a new house,
Yeah.
that is stressful and
Yeah.
hard, and you're like, but my kids came home to this house or
Right,
whatever
right,
it is, right?
yeah.
So that rolls, I think, for everyone as
Yeah.
far as when you come in and implement new processes. No, this is what we did in the beginning. Is like I'd be like, why are we doing this?
Yeah.
Right.
There has got to be a much
Easier
easier way.
Yeah.
I did one.
In my defense, sometimes it was a very good explanation.
It always is. It's
You
just
always
like,
had a great reason why you were doing it.
because you're
Very.
stretched thin,
That's
you don't
right.
have time to proactively like sit there and think about that. You're just like
Correct.
reactive. We're doing it. It's fine. And
Yeah.
that's him.
Yeah.
Yeah.
One
the-
of the
and the
very
key-
first things is that so our team, after every class, right, every continuing education class, everyone gets a certificate.
Mm-hmm.
So Brent would go somewhere random in the state, he'd come back, he'd hand over a sign-in sheet with 50 people on it. 70 people was the one that I got, so this is how processes change.
And it would
And-
get done.
And he would
That's
hand
all
it to
that matters.
someone, and it would get done. 70 certificates would go out. His people were happy. We'd report it. All is well. He's done with it. But they were doing those certificates by hand,
Oh.
in Word, one at a time.
No.
One at a time.
Delete, put the new name.
Oh my
Delete,
God.
put the new name.
One
Absolutely
day
not.
How's that
everyone was
supposed to know?
gone.
It was
I had
done.
to do it.
Yeah.
I had to do the
And
72.
you're like, never again.
Oh, girl, it has never been done like that again. I said, there is a mail labels. You can do labels like this. Why is there not a mail merge? Like, why can
Yes.
we not? And we have since been using a mail merge, but only because I was like, no.
Yeah.
This we can't do.
Yeah.
There's got to be a better
Pain
way. I'm
point,
not doing
yeah.
70 Word documents again. Because then we would do the one and then email it to that person and then do the next one and then email it to that person. Yes, it was
No.
silly. I was like, there's a mail merge. I do not care how much the software costs. But now
Get
we
it?
use our mail merge and we're having them done in no time.
Yeah.
It's great.
Yeah.
But it was those types of things I would walk in. I'm like, why? Brent's like,
And I would
don't
never
know.
see that
because he doesn't
I'm
know.
Yeah.
I'd drop it off on somebody's desk and be gone to the next place.
Right.
And
Yeah.
all I know
See,
is that
they
the
got
next
out.
day they got
Yeah.
out. And
Yeah.
that's all I cared about.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
But
that was helpful.
It creates efficiency problems to be able to move to the next thing.
Correct.
Yeah.
So if you only can see, if you think this is the top of the mountain,
Right.
and there's clouds cover right here, you think that's the pinnacle.
That's right.
And as you start going up, you realize it starts to clear, and
Yeah.
you're not there. And so
Yeah.
what got you to where you're at, it's not going to get you to where you go. And I find myself, that's when we kind of aggressively grew last summer.
Right.
there were certain processes that I was being asked, why are we doing it this way? And I'm like, well, I was just saying. I mean, it was
It was the way I've
virtually
been
the
doing it.
exact same thing, which
I got the end result that I need.
right. But and what it did is it created the motivation to want to reassess the process,
Right.
to make it better.
Right.
And until someone had a problem with it, I was fine
Fine.
with
It's
it. And so that was
perfectly
kind of the uncovering of it. So we will have less of that now because
Yeah.
she will tell
That's
me
wonderful.
what's not actually working that I thought was the best thing ever.
And to
Well,
Laura's
you have
point
great
earlier,
ideas. I
you
mean-
can have that conversation a lot easier than
Yeah,
somebody else.
sometimes. I mean, that's why you also have a business coach. Too.
Yeah, that's
She can
right,
tell
yeah.
you things I would like to. She can say the exact same thing in a much harsher tone,
Right.
and he'll actually listen to her. And we pay her to do that.
That's
so
right.
I mean, there's that. But
There's that.
she's great. But yeah, it's been good. It's been what did y'all hear from other people like when y'all started working together? Because the two things we hear is I could never work with my spouse.
Oh my gosh, I could never do that.
And aren't y'all gonna get bored of each other? And I'm like, no, we're not like this all
Yeah.
day. I mean,
Right.
It's the first time we rode together. To come
Yeah.
here.
Right?
Yeah,
He does leave for lunch and not tell me, and sometimes that hurts my feelings.
yeah.
I'm like, well, what if I wanted?
That's when you waiter food and you're like, well,
Yeah.
I just I
What if I wanted something else?
I think part of, to answer your first question, part of I could never work with my spouse, probably the first few years we were married, I can see how people say
Yeah.
that. I don't know that they mean it in a harsh way,
No.
but that
Yeah.
and so that took a little bit of evolution. I think it helped that she was in the building before she was actually in
right,
the business.
right.
I mean, but I kind of
But
like him, so I'm fine hanging out.
Well,
Right,
at some
right.
point, the benefits outweigh
Yeah.
the perceived bad side. I
Right.
mean,
Yeah.
we at the end of the day, you do two different things. I mean,
Yeah.
y'all have
Yeah.
two completely different skill
Yeah.
sets. So there are times where we come to the office and she has her side of the building, I have my side of the building, and you know, and she's an independent person, so she always kind of
Yeah.
creates her own deal. So it's
Only one time have there been a disagreement where there was arguings of the things, which we don't argue a whole lot even at home or anything. But only one time that I had to leave and I went to Target.
Made
was
it all
that
better.
over?
I don't
Do
even
y'all
remember.
remember?
I don't
Maybe
remember.
she went to Target. That's why
Yeah.
she's remember.
But I went to
Good.
Target
Good.
and he called like an hour and 15 minutes after I left. He's like, "Are you coming back?" And I was like,
I don't know.
"I'm not sure yet. I'm at Target and I might not."
no recollection of it.
Yeah.
The thing is, I have no idea what
Yeah.
made us so irritated. I don't remember.
Imagine
I don't know.
Target.
But it's only once that I left and I did some retail therapy at Target.
The hard part, the most difficult part for us is the communication piece.
Yeah.
Really?
Is we'll have, some of our staff will either tell me something
Yes.
and expect that it immediately goes to her. And
Yeah.
I mean, we live in the same house, sleep in the same bed,
Yeah.
Yeah.
sit at the same dinner table, breakfast,
Yeah.
and that message just doesn't get
Right.
to them. So that's probably the piece that's the hardest.
And
Yeah.
2.5 years, we're still implementing those channels
Yeah.
and trying to tweak them. We
Okay.
have
And
a
it's
new,
hard, yeah.
and it's still not perfect.
We had one yesterday. I walked in and I was like, I need you to do this. She's like, well, what's more important?
Yeah.
Laura's thing that she told me that was all important or your thing? I was like,
Yeah.
oh, dang.
Yeah.
Laura's.
That
Yeah.
sounds very familiar.
And I will say that if you
I don't know how to fix it, but we're working on it. That's a
Yeah.
big issue. It's
right now, our new thing is we have a Google Docs with everybody on it and task and what everybody's doing, and he's been going into it and kind of prioritizing
Yeah.
people's tasks for them, and like these
That's
are things
awesome.
I need done. And then if we have to talk about it, we have to talk about it. But again, habits, creating habits, we're
part
all,
of it,
us
yeah.
included, me included,
Mhm.
trying to remember to check that every morning.
Oh,
You
yeah.
know, like that's
Yeah.
not that's not a 100% habit right now.
We've tried
We're
the
trying.
staff meetings and they sound great, but they don't necessarily work quite as well
I
as I'd
like
like them to.
I like a morning meeting and an afternoon meeting. That's
Yeah.
kind of what I did in my previous life
Right.
as well. Like that was the only way we could keep things organized on where we are and what's going on and all that.
Do you have a problem with everybody being in the office at
Right,
the same
right.
time?
Yeah.
Or-
Oh, yeah,
it just-
definitely.
Yeah.
So we
It's hard.
found that this document remains
Yeah.
fluid, and
Yeah.
everybody at any given point can go, okay, this is where I stand, this is where everybody else stands. So it's
Kind of
worked
project
so far.
management.
Right,
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's basically
Yeah.
what it is in
That's
the Google
great.
Doc.
Yeah.
Well, and that's one of the things that we learned really quick was when you're maintaining something,
Yeah.
you don't have to have as frequent meetings or
Right.
at least
Yeah.
communication in that. When you're trying to build or change something drastically, so what we have implemented probably for a while now, even before she was full time, is we will have lunch on a weekly basis because we're still trying to get our bearings
Yeah.
about what does it look like, and so it is. What are the urgent things, the things we have to do this week or over the next week?
Right.
Then we have to make sure in the beginning of the month we plan the entire month to make sure we don't have any gaps in that.
Mhm.
And then we get to go to strategic items.
Yeah.
And we get to talk about those things. And we have a marketing director who meets with us, so it's not so much the team itself because of independent contractors.
Sure.
It's more of we will meet weekly to talk. And so our new thing that we're working on is identifying each of our key performance indicators.
Right.
So we can determine here are the 2 goals we want to achieve. This is it, not 22. And one is before the other one.
Working
Yeah,
around.
yeah.
It's hard. There's
It
so
is-
many
it
things
is.
you
All
want
the
to
time.
do.
All the time.
And it's
Well, you recommended the 12-week year. I read it.
Yeah.
And I was like, that sounds awesome. I don't know if I can do that. That sounds really
His
awesome.
is laminated.
Yeah.
If you
I'm
responsibility
obsessed.
over here.
Yeah.
Yeah,
That is how we run
I
it.
mean, I read it the day I
I
bought it. The
can't.
day you
Yeah.
told me about it. So
That's
Well-
been the biggest change in my this last 12 weeks system for me was I started meeting with a group of 4 people every morning, Monday morning at 8 a.m. And I literally talks about what you did last week, what was your execution score, where you at year to date with your goal, what's your intentions for the week, feedback and suggestions, those type
I
of
feel
things.
like we're not. Maybe it's just us.
No. No, it's everyone
we
except
have
Blake.
so
He is like, I mean, I'm
We
just
have
like,
really good intentions on Monday morning.
Oh, great
but
intentions.
Things come up on
Yeah.
Tuesday and Wednesday,
Yeah.
and like our entire
yeah,
team might have to shift gears
Right.
Yeah.
to fix something or to create something new, or I don't know. I say that joke.
no, I
Not that
I get,
drastic,
no,
but we have
I
good
get it.
intentions.
no.
Well, I will tell you, we all take the path of least resistance,
Right.
kind of like a river. Like that's
Uh-huh.
where just literally the banks are trying to. For me, the anxiety and stress to not have that makes me spiral in a way that
Right.
makes me incredibly unproductive
Right.
for the rest of the group, including myself professionally and personally. So
Yeah.
that's why my obsession
With
is
that.
so strong with
Well, that's
that.
It
good.
works for him.
Yes.
That's good.
Yeah.
I mean,
here's
more
I'm with
power
you. It's
to
like
ya.
I would really like for that to work. Like I like systems
Structure,
and
yeah.
structure and organization. I really like to mark things off of a list.
Mm.
Yeah,
I love that.
yeah, lists
Yeah,
are great. I'm a
yeah.
list
My list
person.
is a
Yeah,
list
My
I have
list
lists of
goes
lists.
to pot.
Yeah.
Just about every
So many
day.
lists.
Yeah.
Yeah, but
So many.
but he's. I mean, it's just personality types and how you're structured.
Yeah.
and,
It is.
you
I mean,
know.
and that's, I'm really telling you, like, it's not like I have this mastery process or like
Right.
that I'm just better at this. It's literally because it's less pain to learn
him.
and master that than it is
For
to
me,
do
it's
the
a lot
other.
of pain.
Yeah,
I'm
for
like,
her,
I
you
can't
you
do
have
it
the
totally.
ability to say no to the things that don't achieve the goal, and I think that's where most people, including myself,
Me,
is
can't.
because you kind of, at least for as a business person, a lot of times you have this goal and you say, "Ooh, I see an opportunity here," and you kind of want to take it and see,
Yeah.
take it and see. It's that's
Yeah.
the tough part.
And you and I are conceptual thinkers.
Yeah.
So we care about today, but I already know what this year looks like.
That's right.
Like I've already thinking about 2022 and what the possibilities are, and like I'm already there. I know whatever. I'm bored with today,
That's
even though I
right.
have to execute.
Let's
I need to
move
do
on.
it. Yeah, where it sounds like you two are more like, no, today matters.
Yeah,
We
we're-
actually
we're
have to.
living in
If
real
you
world.
if you want
We're
any of
doing
that
that
done,
plan.
we got to do this
Right.
today.
That's correct.
And I think
Well,
that's
we joked that in a meeting this week we had, so when we're creating a new course for students, it's a process, right? So we got to create it all. There's regulations. You have to get it approved. It has to go through all its approved, and all that takes time. And it's never fast enough, right?
Yeah.
Because then
Yeah.
it's just not fast enough. And he's already moved on. So he wants to get that approval process. Like, let's get everything approved. Let's get approved. And
Go,
then
go, go.
we're going to pop in a video, and then we're going to do it. And I'm like, no, we're going to do it right. Let's do it right this first time.
Mhm.
Well, and popping
that
in
takes
videos
longer.
takes a second.
Right?
Longer than popping in.
That's like an
sometimes.
oxymoron,
Yeah.
just to
Right.
say, just put that
Yeah.
video.
Let's just do it. And
It's
then
like
we're
when he's
gonna-
like,
and
"Hey,
it'll
can
be
you just
great.
review this real quick?" And I'm like, "We have to throw this entire thing out and redo it." And he's like, "No, like it's It's never
Yeah.
just a quick.
Start over.
Yeah.
And I think too, it helps to come on board to be able to say, okay, we need help here.
Yeah.
And maybe we need to outsource some things.
Yeah.
That's kind of what we've had to do. Like
Mhm.
I came in from a marketing advertising
Oh,
background,
cool. Yeah.
right? So I've bought TV and political media for a long time. And so I came in, I'm like, advertising.
Yeah.
That, I mean, I wasn't from a digital advertising background,
Yeah.
but I had done some, and I
Yeah.
had been working in the business long enough where it wasn't a thing, and then it became a thing.
Yep.
Mhm.
So like I was in the evolution of trying to learn it, and,
Oh,
and
yeah.
it had evolved very quickly over a matter of 10
yeah.
years, where it was like nothing to something.
Yeah.
And so I'm like, yeah, I'll handle all the social and this, and sure, Facebook advertising, let's do that. You know, like all these things.
Mhm.
Well, kind of 6-9 months into it, I get an intern from LSU. She's helping me out, and we're trying to, and it ain't just like
Oh yeah.
putting it up, you know, like it's a lot, and it changes
Content.
so much.
Yeah. Yeah.
And we tried, like, we're
Brutal.
still teaching ourselves things, and we're still learning. But at some point, I threw my hands up and I was like, I need help.
Yeah.
And that was a lot for me to be like, I'm supposed to know this.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like, this is my thing.
Yeah.
Like, I'm an advertising person. Like, I've been doing this my entire working life. Like,
Yeah.
now you want to buy some TV and some radio?
Yeah.
That you got.
Selling
There
I
we
got
go.
that.
Yeah.
But on the digital stuff, I needed some help.
Yeah.
And
So that's ego.
yes, and
Coupled
I had to
with
bring it down a
coupled with
little.
getting to the goal.
Right.
Uh-huh.
And where do you fall in that? Which one's more important? Again, you can't have both a lot of times.
Right, and
Yeah.
I finally, I mean, it hurt my feelings to be like, I can't figure this out, and why is this so confusing? And I know what a reach and a frequency is, and like all these things. And then finally I was like, I don't know this.
But I think that's good leadership, though, when you can acknowledge it, because people
Yeah.
who can't
Right.
and they just want to like will themselves. It's like you're more strategic, and you're actually, to me, more. It's more inspiring to say like, you know what, I do need help here.
Right.
You know, like because then
Yeah.
you're still leading it, you're still managing it, and you're learning it as you go, and you
Right.
recognize that. You know,
Oh,
so
yeah.
that's really cool.
And over the, you know, so that was what, a year and a half ago now.
Yeah.
Over that time, we have learned a lot, and
Yeah.
one of the things that we learned is that we can't do it by ourselves.
Yeah.
that
Yeah.
there are people out there that do this for lots of companies, and they're in it, and
Yeah.
Yeah.
and all the digital, the Google ads and the Facebook ads and all the things,
Mhm.
they change every 5-ish months because the platforms will change the algorithm, and then all of a sudden what you thought you learned, well, we just can't keep up with that learning curve because when I'm in it, we got other things to do, right?
Right.
Right.
And there's a lot of people that say they can do it, but can't do it.
Yeah.
Right, right.
That
And
is
that's
very
something
true.
to
I have been
figure
burned
out.
with thousands of dollars
Oh, so many.
of trying
So
to
many.
figure that out as well.
I'm
Yeah.
curious how. Sorry, go ahead.
Oh, no, you go.
I'm curious how to.
I'm
so,
ready to change the subject.
No,
so I'm
no.
ready for it.
I want to know what y'all do outside of this. Like, how do you keep? You know, you say it's so easy to go home and talk about it, like
Right.
about work. You're here all day. What do you do for fun? What do you do like to set those goals to say like we're gonna make time for ourselves, or we're gonna, you know, what does that look like? Because like, we
Feel
want to
like-
figure that out, because we would work 7 days a week right now
Yeah.
probably
If you could.
if we didn't make
I
ourselves.
think
take a
our
break.
kids kind of dictate that a lot for us, right? Their things choose, you know, but we do try to, you know, go out. Like my mom will be like, y'all go out to eat, or
Yeah.
like we try to. I don't know. We just took an anniversary trip for a night, and
Aw.
I was like, we're not talking about work. So we spent like dinner talking about our wedding and
Aw.
all the things and how, who
Yeah.
was that. He was like, they were there. I was like, yes, they were there. It's been a long time.
Yeah, she's very good about that stuff. So
Planning
she's
the
very
fun.
good about. Well, I mean, I always make the joke that if it were up to me to keep in touch with our collective friends,
Uh-huh.
we'd be in big time trouble. But just, I mean,
Yeah.
we've been married 16 years,
Oh, wow.
so and we've and whether it was conscious or unconscious, we've always been good about. She has a night with the girls where she goes and kind of
Yeah.
lives her independent life, and then we'll do things together,
Yeah.
and then we'll do things with our family, with our kids. So she's very good about making those individual moments. Is, well, you need to go do this. You know, for me, I have my certain things that I
Yeah.
do, and then she has, her individual groups, and then we have our couple without the kids, and we take trips without the kids, and then we include the kids. So I don't know if it's conscious, but she's very good
I don't
about,
like to sit still.
kind of looking backwards. I see where, because it's hard. You don't, it's hard in a marriage.
Yeah.
You kind of want to be your own individual person, and then with kids, and I know that y'all have a young one, and
Almost 2-year-old.
with kids, it's the same thing. You kind of can get consumed by that, and
I think
she's-
to answer your question, because I don't know if I did or we did.
No, that's.
I mean, you just kind of have to, as structured as you are, build it in, right? And you have to figure out. Yes, maybe you need a weekly business lunch, but and weekly date night is hard. They say say a lot.
Yeah.
They say you need that, and that's hard. But some sort, maybe in a month, like we're gonna go out to eat, and we're gonna try really hard to not talk about work.
Yeah.
We're gonna talk about our kid, or we're gonna talk about, I don't know, the game that was on, or whatever it is. Like just try to enjoy, because you can't, if you don't leave your work at some point, then neither, y'all don't want to be working together, because you're this is all we're consumed
You want to
with.
enjoy what you do, and that's kind of the hard part. I'm consumed with it. I could do it every, and I have no problems coming up here on the weekends.
Yeah.
And I don't know that that's her jam, So
Right.
it's just, sometimes it's easier for me to get a quiet place. I can do more things.
Yeah, there's a tremendous tension between that concept there, because one of the things that I hear, and I find myself saying too sometimes, is once we get to,
Right.
then we'll,
No.
and it doesn't work,
Yeah.
and it doesn't
Because
work.
there's
So
always another one.
there is. I think there was a
We
study
get
done
there.
that says it's the percentage is 23%. If you have 23% more than what you have now, then that's the number that we all think that we would be satisfied by that point.
Yeah.
Problem is when we get that, the percentage is now another 23%.
3%,
So we're constantly chasing this percentage down of when we'll be happy or content.
Right.
And it hasn't worked. First 5 years of my sales career, I was miserable because
Yeah.
I was never content
Right.
and constantly, passionately driving. And it took me to realize I'm going to blink, and the things that are important to me.
Right.
Like, I wasn't even married at the time, and I'm thinking my wife's going to hate me, my kids are not going to know who I am as a result of not having the intentionality towards
Yeah.
it. So but I don't want to go back to the experts who give you these things. I think that's where conceptual, theoretical thinking or processes meet practicality, and how we're all working through what works for us.
Right.
Without this, well, it didn't work for me, so I give up. Like, I think if that's the
Right.
counterpart to that, you've missed the boat on that too.
Yeah.
But I hear, and this may work for some people, but I hear time blocking as an example all the
Yes.
time. And that don't work for me,
I
can't.
not on a daily basis. And I'm a structured person.
Yeah.
We just talked about how detailed my thing is.
Yeah.
And so I think it's about finding what works for us.
Right.
And try, fail, adjust,
Right.
then try, succeed.
Yeah.
And it's also the guilt. I mean, it doesn't make you
Yeah.
a bad husband or wife to
Right.
say, I need my own time. It
Yep.
doesn't make you a bad parent to say, the two of us need to go somewhere and leave them at home.
Yes.
Right.
So I think, there's a lot of people that want to do everything with their kid. And I love my kids, but
Yeah.
there are
Right.
times where I think
need
they're better off
time.
at home. And in order for us to grow, by
Yeah.
that same token, you don't want your kids to leave at 18 and you look at her and go, where have you been for 18 years?
Yeah,
Right.
that's my biggest. That's what makes our intentionality is like
Yeah.
those little suckers are going to leave eventually, and we're going to be left for the next
Each
40
other.
years looking at each other. So
gotta like each
no,
other then.
I need her to like me.
Right.
I'm not. She's not the problem.
That's right.
I'm the problem.
As long as we
I
know
need
this,
her to
that's-
like me in 20 years
Yeah.
when he leaves the house
Stick around.
and go, please still be with me. Stay
Right.
with me.
Don't leave me.
Stop.
Yeah.
No, I think too, kids change. Y'all are just a little behind us, but
Yeah.
kids change your perspective on a lot of things, right?
Right.
I mean, I used to work a lot in late hours. I would come home, but when I stayed at the office. There was one political cycle where Brent brought dinner to our office every night because he's bored.
With the baby carriage, yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah, I mean, so and then I was like, this isn't
Right.
what I want to happen. Like, this isn't really how I want it to be for long term. Kind of, I don't
Yeah.
want to look up and be like I want to bathe my kids every night and put them to
Right.
bed and feed them. And there was a moment where I wasn't being able to do that.
Yeah.
Now, and so I wanted to make a change, and that's how we ended up here.
Yeah.
Right.
So
We redefine what success looks like.
There you go. That's what I was going to say. I think it's how we define what we believe success to look like.
right.
Is
Your
is-
some
story
days-
resonates. I was sort of in the same boat. Like, I felt like I was missing I was missing
Yeah.
those moments.
Yeah, right. The whole don't blink. You're like, I'm blinking over here at work. And,
Yeah.
you know, and then you get, I don't know. I still, and some days, it's a constant flow of trying to improve and be better and trying to be a better parent. Work-life balance is a thing. And it's hard to find that when you want to have a successful business and you own your own thing. And, like, you have all these, I mean, his vision for us is large, and it's going to take a lot of work to get there. But I don't want to lose. I mean, our kids are in teeny prime time right now, right? So you don't want to look up in 18 years and be like, my parents were working all the time.
Right. I think the best way I've heard it put is it's not a balanced work life, it's balancing.
Yes.
As if it's a teeter. So there are certain seasons of life where you have certain intensity towards.
Right.
So we may be pouring into our business at this phase to try to get to going to a certain defined, time scheduled.
Yeah.
And that's why I love the 12-week system. Very few things can be knocked off kilter in 12 weeks. You can dedicate 12 weeks to something as long as you readjust and go back to something else with intentionality that's a priority to you. I think that's key too. But I call BS on those who say you have to choose one or the other.
No.
I just don't believe.
And some days, it doesn't have to be every day. Like some days you get home late.
Yeah.
And some days, some days I get home and I'm like, all right, let's go. Like you walk in, it's like feed, bath, bed, let's go. And I'm like, I didn't even see my kids today.
Right.
And the 2 hours that I did see them, everyone was cranky pants. I was cranky pants. They had on their cranky pants. And all I wanted to do was for you to go to bed.
Real life right there.
Yeah. And then you go to bed and you try to do better the next day.
Yeah.
And I think that, but it can get lost when you're together all the time and trying to, half the time I'm leaving, he's like, you're leaving? I'm like, somebody's got to pick up the kids. We gotta go.
Find us.
Yeah. Once we got out of, once she started kindergarten and we lost our summer at pre, I feel like I lose her for the summer.
Yeah.
Because it's like,
hard.
all right, well,
Just
every
your
camp
schedule's
in
different.
the world is from 9 to 1.
Yeah.
Pick them all up. It's hard.
Ridiculous.
We have a lot of help, which is super great.
Yeah.
But I do think you can get lost in trying to figure out where that balance is. And I think sometimes I'm with you on seasons are different, right? So I worked in a political world. It's very seasonal.
Yep.
We work in a CE world. It is very seasonal, right?
Oh,
So
yeah.
November and December for us is insane, which it's insane for life in general because it's the holidays.
Yeah.
And everyone
Right,
wants to,
right.
no. And it is crazy.
Yeah.
But we have to know that we're going to get through that and we're going to put our nose down and like figure it out and take a deep breath and January's going to be a little better.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, and I think if you can plan kind of nuggets of time, kind of to circle back to that, is pull out and find some time, if it's one night in Abita Springs,
Right.
to not talk about work or to not completely talk about work.
Right.
It's hard not to, though. It's like, did you ever email that girl back
Yeah.
that left a
Yeah.
message?
Yeah.
And he's like, yeah, I did. Okay, good.
Yeah.
Anyway.
Well, here's what I want to wrap up with. I'm curious from your perspective. You coming in, what are some challenges that you see agents having? Like, what are challenges of today's agent?
Oh gosh. I think, I don't know if we have enough time. Okay, so I think one of the things is,
You're in charge of the cameras.
so many,
We make a part one and a part
Yeah,
two.
that's
wrap
right.
up. I'm like,
Well, I mean, that's,
all right.
I mean, we're.
Yeah,
in it,
I'm
we-
playing.
you
I'm
know,
playing. There's,
we deal with it every day. and I
Yeah,
think
yeah,
I know, but
yeah.
from an outsider coming in and having professional experience, what do you?
So I think a lot of agents struggle with balancing all of the facets of their business because they are the business.
Right.
So even though they're affiliated with, our agents are with Exit Realty Group, they are still their marketing person, their their communications
Right.
person. They're, if they're going to put together pop buys to go take to clients, someone's got to pick it up and put it together and figure out what the slogan's going to be. And
Right.
so I think agents, like anyone, they have a certain skill set, and a lot of times what I've found, and I jokingly, and I say this in the most loving way, I think agents are all I personality, a lot of them.
Right.
They're the woo and the fun, and they're the party, and that's why they're great at selling houses.
That's exactly right.
I mean, they have a good time, and Blake and I are the stick in the mud IT person and the strategy, and we
Right.
kind of keep everyone, we're like, all right, come on, let's herd the cats, and
Right.
like keep everyone in line. But figuring out how to balance things in general, and going back to, like, everyone says they want technology, and then you ask them what technology looks like, and they're like, well, like Facebook ads, and I'm like, that's not tech. I mean, it is, but it's
that's
marketing.
more marketing than technology.
Right.
Yeah.
So helping them really structure their business to set themselves up for success.
Right.
I think
Right.
that's something that Blake does really well. And so for instance, when we have an agent join the office, they go through a 12-week onboarding, which we've just really implemented.
Right.
And it's online class, through Google Classroom, like it's a whole, it's a whole thing. And we try to figure out what are those like key things that you really foundationally need to have. And then setting them up with our marketing person who's awesome. I mean, to get their profile set up, to teach them how to manage those things. So many agents come from other professions that had nothing to do with it previously, like teaching or, banking or nursing. And so, they get into real estate because they have the flexibility and they have, the ability to make their own schedule and unlimited income. However, they don't have someone saying you have to get up and go to work every day. And so I think that's a lot of it. I think it's really balancing that time and honing those skills. I mean, do you want to?
Yeah, so I think it's three things.
Right.
I think you'll hear most agents say this publicly. They'll say, I want to know how to boost my production.
Right.
Yeah.
I don't think that there's enough skill in the I know how to do this versus someone they just read in a book or thought theory, like we talked about earlier, like someone said time block and they tried it, now they think they're a failure as a result of not being able to do it. And
Right,
you're like,
they were supposed to do it.
Right, exactly. So I think you've got systems like that that are not necessarily applicable to the real world or to their life, and meeting them where they're at. Like, you don't just stop all your past history or your baggage or whatever that is. It comes with you, and you have to learn how to build forward with all of that stuff.
Right.
Skills and disadvantages. The second one I think is increased profits.
Yeah.
I think every business struggles with, I have a revenue and an expense line, and in the middle is my profit. My revenue grows, and yet my expenses chase me.
Correct.
And now I've got more responsibility and the same amount of money. What are we doing here?
Yeah.
We're going to go back down to
Teaching them.
this.
Yeah.
So teaching them not only first can we boost their production, but how do we increase the profit margin of what you're doing to do the third thing, which I think most rarely ever do, and that's reclaim their freedom.
Sure.
And I think that most people get into this for the freedom and the unlimited income, and then they realize that their business is controlling them,
Right.
Yes.
and they are never able to get it. I mean, when's the last time you went to a retirement party for a real estate agent?
Right.
It doesn't happen. And that's a beautiful thing, too, because you can work 75, 80 years old and do a few things and supplement your income. It's
Right.
great that you have a skill that you can do that. You don't have to go to Walmart and be a greeter. That's wonderful, but it shouldn't be because you have to.
Right.
It should be because you want to,
Sure.
and you want to continue to work and serve. And I think those are the three systemic issues that we're seeing in our industry, and that's part of our promise is to get that ship righted.
Yeah.
So that's my.
What he said.
I thought it was great.
But he does
I
it. You
think-
do a good job with it. You do, and it really putting that system and those structures together for them and setting them up for success is key. I mean, the burnout rate is what 80% a year.
1
in
year,
the
first year licensees, and then 33%
Yeah.
every 3 years.
Yeah.
33.3%. Now NAR says 100%
Crazy.
turnover every 3 years. That's crazy. How's that sustainable? It's not, and it shouldn't be that way. And the most heartbreaking part is probably at least half of those can do this.
Yeah.
They
Without a
can
doubt.
absolutely do it, and something that they either don't have resource-wise, coaching-wise, or just direction maybe, end up burning out and choosing something else, and they end up sacrificing what could have been. And I think that along with the person who can't retire after 40 years of building a career and just quits, and there's nothing there. Those are the two things that break my heart when I'm looking at this industry and the possibilities of what we have. So.
Yeah.
Well, good. Well, thank y'all for coming in. I
I
really
think what
appreciate
we've
it.
decided is that you can work with your spouse.
Absolutely.
Is that what we've discovered?
As long as you do what we say. Yeah, I mean,
As long as you do.
I think there's a little bit of
what
truth
we
to that.
say.
I'm just playing.
And you all described it too. Like, one of the comments that I had was being comfortable with conflict and disagreement. I think in any work environment,
Oh, yeah.
and not feeling like you have to walk on the eggshells. I think you've alluded to that several times, or both of y'all. I think that's been being able to do that when you have a safe and trusting environment
Yeah.
with any team is what allows the working together. And y'all both said it multiple times. This communicating effectively thing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Making an
'Cause
effective
it can't-
request.
The one, he said it too, is that people all accidentally assume that y'all talk about everything.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And you talk a lot about a lot of things, but you might not talk about the little tiny thing that you did today and you did today and
Yeah.
you knocked it out and you got it done and it moved on and you talked to one agent and they're fine. You didn't have to tell them about it.
And part of
That's
it's
fine.
decision making. I mean, there'll be a decision that's in the air, and we'll make the decision, but we won't either communicate that to
Yeah.
who needs to
Yeah.
be,
Right.
you know.
Yeah,
And we're
that's a
like,
big
yeah,
deal.
we talked about
Yeah,
that
that
3 weeks
happened.
ago.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No big
Right.
deal. And you have somebody that's waiting on an answer.
Yeah.
And you and I, let me talk to Laura about that, and then we go and talk to Laura about that, and we make the decision, you know, at 8:30 at night,
Right.
Right.
and then
By the
it
next
to-
morning.
and then totally, you know, 3 weeks later, we're going, where are we on that? Well, you never told me. Well, yeah, we made a decision. So that
Yeah.
not only making the
And that
decision,
happens
but
too because
communication
you were
the
out
other
of
way
the office,
too. Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
You were out of the office.
Yeah.
Y'all talked about it at home, but it didn't make it back
Yeah.
to the building.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah. I can see, especially in the way our ebbs and flows of being, you're traveling,
Yes.
I'm out of the office a lot.
Yeah.
She's there, so I can, the complexities of a 2019 office where you're not coming to the same desk every single
Yes.
day and doing the same
Or
thing.
sometimes he's out. I mean, he was out for 4 work days, different trips, but
Mhm.
4 work days last week over the last 7 days, and he'll come back and we're like, yeah, we did that last Friday, but maybe nobody told him.
Right, yeah.
Because he wasn't here,
Yeah.
and then maybe we didn't update that
Moved
little
on,
sheet,
yeah.
you know? So, communication, as with marriage and
Yeah.
work and all the things, communication is key as far as
Yeah.
keeping everybody on it. And y'all have more people on your team than we do. I mean, we're a small office, and that's kind of one thing that we've talked a lot about with our team is if we can't communicate with
Right, yeah.
5 people, we've got some major problems.
Yeah.
Right? If we
Yeah,
can't-
scalability becomes a challenge.
And it becomes Brent told me I need to do this, and I'm like, well, no, I need to do that. You know, if we can't communicate, can I steal her off of this project?
Yeah.
You know, whatever. But marriage and all the things is,
Yeah, love it.
you just gotta keep
Well,
it
thank
all
y'all.
open.
We've kept y'all. We're working on almost 50 minutes.
Oh,
55
wow.
minutes.
Sorry.
So,
No, y'all
Well,
are
fast.
good.
That was awesome.
Talking.
so
Yeah.
thank y'all so much. I appreciate it.